our kids are not broken. There's nothing wrong with who they are. There's nothing wrong about the fact that they have impulse differences or their attention is focused in different ways than might be expected, or they are more sensitive to certain things, or they're more attuned to in certain environments. That is who they are. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I would just say the more we can normalize and speak openly about our family's experience, the more we're going to be able to find other people, help other people feel seen and realize, oh, it's not just me. But it does require some bravery, I think, in order to just live openly about what's happening.
Hi, Conscious Parents, it's Carrie here, and I am here with a little info about raising our mindful kids. I've got some tips and tricks about breaking free of the box and becoming who you are and teaching your kids how to do that along the way. Join us. Hi there and welcome back. It's Carrie, your friendly mom here, and I am so excited with the guest I have here today. She really has resonated in my heart when I listened to her podcast, and I have Debbie Reber here. She's a parent activist, best-selling author. She's the CEO founder and the host of Tilt Parenting podcast, and she is on a mission of transforming lives of parents raising neurodiverse children. And I love the name of your book, Debbie, Differently Wired. So I am here today with Debbie, and I just want to say, as a mom raising two neurodiverse kids, I feel like I can put down some of my walls of protection as a mom and just feel like I can connect with you heart to heart right away. Thanks so much, Debbie.
That's so nice. Thank you, Carrie. I'm looking forward to this.
You've talked in your book and elsewhere about connecting with our kids and meeting them where they're at. I'd love to hear what you would say about this area.
Yeah, I think for me and what I found with so many parents who are on this journey, that we often have our own agenda and plan for how we want to parent and what our lives are going to look like and who our children are going to be. And we often don't consider the human that is in front of us, right? And so much of our work, so much of my personal work has been really respecting and acknowledging and getting to know the child that I'm raising and who they inherently are for all of their strengths and their neurodivergence and exactly who they're meant to be.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like when we do that for our kids, it empowers them so much to be who they are. And it seems like so many of our goal setting and our evaluations and everything is we're starting to looking at the whole child, looking at their strengths and areas that we need to support them. So I really honor that. I love that. And I think you had mentioned creating a world where your child feels secure at home. If you can do it in the schools, that's great. I was recently able to do that, moving my kids to a socially, emotionally focused, project-based school. And it's been like night and day. My 9-year-old son went from I hate school to I love school. And I know that not everybody can maybe make those changes or have that opportunity around them. But as a mom of two kids who are neurodiverse, I feel like sometimes I'm trying to figure out the triggers and I'm trying to prevent maybe things from happening to them or controlling the world around them. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells or maybe even being overprotective as a parent. What would you say to mamas like me?
First of all, that is so relatable. I feel like I've spent most of my life parenting my child who's now 20 and feeling the same way. I think the first thing I would just say is that I have tested this over and over again, but we actually can't control anything. We can't control who our kids are. We can't protect them from experiencing loss and pain and sadness and frustration and all of those things. And actually, we don't want to do that, right? Because that is the reality of living a human experience, is having the full range. And when I think about creating a secure world, and that is one of my favorite tilts that I talk about, it's really about helping our children, first of all, feel safe and seen with us as adults. So they do feel that we've got their back and that they have people in their corner to help them when life happens and when things get challenging. But ultimately, we want our kids to to, and the word resilience, I feel like is so vague and big. And what does that even mean? But we want our kids to know that they have the resources within them to handle hard stuff when it comes up. And the way that I do that is by modeling handling hard stuff, like out loud, talking about the hard stuff, talking about my disappointments and frustrations, and being really authentic about how those things impact me, and looping my kid into those conversations so that he can see that, oh, mom's going through this is really hard for her and it's survivable.
Yeah. I love that so much. I think there is so much that we are learning about ourselves as we're parenting these kids. Have you found that as well?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I often call us parents of neurodivergent kids the wingsuit flyers of parenting, because it is such an extreme sport. It really is. And it's because our kids demand that we show up for them. There's no way they're going to take simple answers. They're not going to just accept what we say without asking for a lot of evidence that it's true. And they also really need to push. And in order for us to expand ourselves, we have to dig deep. We don't have to, but it's going to feel a lot worse if we don't. It's not necessarily the journey when I was pregnant. I would have said, yes, sign me up for that path. But here I am. And I'm now so grateful because, I wouldn't have done half this personal development work I've done as an adult if it was not for the fact that I was raising a kid who really demanded that I do that deep inquiry work.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much that has really been brought up that I've been working on myself and looking at as an opportunity to heal. There was somebody once that said, I was expecting a trip to Italy and I somehow ended up in Amsterdam. And now with my parenting journey, right, you're expecting Italy and you end up in Amsterdam, and really learning to absorb the Amsterdam, the Dutch shoes, or, I'm stereotyping here, but really learning to absorb and cherish the path that we are on instead of maybe feeling lonely in it sometimes. That leads me to my next question. What would you say to the parent who feels alone, feels like no one else is going through this? That was definitely me, and how I ended up starting Heart to Heart Parents was feeling so alone. And that was before I discovered Tilt Parenting as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I created Tilt for similar reasons, because there are so many of us. First of all, that's what I would say right off the bat. There are so many of us raising neurodivergent kids. Statistically speaking, a very conservative estimate is that 1 in 5 kids are neurodivergent, and it's actually way more than that. So we're talking worldwide, billions of people here, right? Yeah. So we're not outliers. And first of all, I always encourage parents to talk openly about what's going on in safe spaces, right? Some people, it's not really safe to be really authentic and open about the challenges we're experiencing, but we also have to normalize the things that are hard so that we can find each other, because there's nothing wrong. Our kids are not broken. There's nothing wrong with who they are. There's nothing wrong about the fact that they have impulse differences, or their attention is focused in different ways than might be expected, or they are more sensitive to certain things, or they're more attuned in certain environments. That is who they are, and there's nothing wrong with that. So I would just say the more we can normalize and speak openly about our family's experience, the more we're going to be able to find other people, help other people feel seen, and realize, oh, it's not just me. But it does require some bravery, I think, in order to just live openly about what's happening. And can I share a little story that's just popped into my head? When I was going on the book tour for Differently Wired, I was at a bookstore, I think it was near Allentown, Pennsylvania. And these women came up to me afterwards. It was about 4 women. And they said, we have known each other through soccer and band and all these community things. And they're like, we didn't know each other was raising a neurodivergent kid until we saw each other here. And they were so excited, and they were going to create a little group, and they were going to start. And we were laughing about the fact that we should have T-shirts made that say, my child has an IEP, so that we can find each other on the playground. But I just love that example so much. Like, we are everywhere. And when we find other parents who are walking the same path, it really can change everything for us.
Mm-hmm. I love that so much. I would love a t-shirt. I would sport that t-shirt proudly. And it's so amazing to be able to connect. That really resonates with me, you know, not knowing that other people are maybe going through the same thing. We were in the mall the other day, and we thought everybody was energized and ready for it, and we had a little bit of a meltdown at Bath and Body Works, and we were leaving the mall. We were like, okay, let's get to the car so we can reset. And on the way to the car, there were so many people, my parents' age group, there were so many couples that were just giving us this look like, why are you not reprimanding them? Why are you not parenting them? So what would you say to a mom that's going through that?
Yeah, I would say that, first of all, people judge because they are afraid. It triggers their own insecurities. So all those, believe me, I've gotten plenty of those looks too. Yeah. And it feels terrible, especially if you're someone who is overly sensitive, as I was, about what other people thought of me as a parent. Yeah. And I have learned that people are projecting their own fears and concerns about their children on us when they're judging us, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's triggering like this insecurity about, am I doing enough as a parent, or what would I do, or am I a good enough parent? So that's the first thing I would say. It's not actually about us, it's about them. And the other thing is, we have to just learn to shake it off. Every time I hear the Taylor Swift song, I literally I'm like, I don't need any of that stuff. It does not belong to me. It has nothing to do with me. And that's a muscle that we build over time. It's hard to get those looks and act like it doesn't bother us. But when we're in those moments, we have to prioritize our kids' safety. We don't want our kids to feel that we're throwing them under the bus, or that we are embarrassed or shamed by their behavior. We really need to remember that our child is having that reaction because they feel threatened or unsafe. Their nervous system has completely triggered, and our job is just to help them regulate again. And that's the only thing that matters in that situation.
Yes, that's so important for them not to walk away feeling shamed. Yeah. Or for us not to walk away feeling shamed in that moment. And I love Shake It Off. I think I might have to add that to my playlist. So if we get in that car, we're in that situation, we could shake it off. My husband and I are both recovering people pleasers. So shaking it off will be a awesome laughter and dance and movement, I feel like, is a perfect way to reset in those moments. But my next question is from my husband. I asked him this morning, I was telling him who I was chatting with, and I was like, what do you think I should ask? What would you want to ask? And he said he would love to know, what's the most important thing that he can do for our kids?
As a father.
Yeah.
Gosh, where do I start? First of all, I love that you asked him a question to participate in this conversation. Yeah, I think just doing the work on just anybody in my community. I'm all about do the work on yourself so that you can best show up for who this child is. And that's the same thing with my husband and I that we're always talking about. We contribute in different ways to our family and to what our child needs. We bring different strengths to the table when it comes to supporting dysregulation or any of that stuff. But I would say just continue to do the work on yourself to prioritize your own personal growth, notice where your triggers are, and get curious about investigating those as well. And when I talk with parents a lot about couplehood too, because it is really hard for a lot of families. Yeah. And often it is, at least my community is probably 95% women in kind of heteronormative relationships. And there's a lot of conversation. How do I get my husband on board on the same page and all of that stuff? And I think it's not about having our partner show up in the exact same way. It's about having each partner, again, show up in the way that they can, seeing our partner with compassion in that dynamic, and not expecting them to do things exactly the way we do, letting go of a little bit of control so that they can navigate their own unique relationship with our kids, which is very separate from ours, right? So we want to respect and nurture that and know that it matters just as much as our relationship with our child and the way that we do things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when you can really come together in the challenges, and definitely as a mom acknowledging the challenge that they're going through as well, because maybe they had that trip to Italy planned in their mind as well. Mm-hmm. My partner is definitely somebody, I'm really lucky in that certain times when I'm feeling overwhelmed in a situation with our kiddos, I can turn and say, can you get a laugh going? Like, can you help to reset this? I'm kind of under the water here and I can't surface right now. So that's a really helpful part for us in our journey.
I love that question. I'm gonna use that. Can you just do something like do a pratfall or something, make me laugh, like just change the energy.
Yeah, like to get me to laugh too. I didn't even think about, I was thinking like to get our kids to laugh, to help them reset if they're in the yellow zone and I'm just seeing this kind of going downhill, right? To get them to laugh and move or reset. But also, yeah, I need that laughter too. Mom needs it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I love that. You had touched on community a bit, and I think I'm in so many mom groups, which I'm sure you're all over online, and seeing community as something that so many of us are searching for, because we can let the walls come down. We can feel like we don't have to worry about, right now behind my camera, I have a Crunch Lab box that's open and model train railroad pieces all over the table. And I feel like I have to close it off and mask myself when something's over. I don't want them to see the chaos, to maybe judge us, or I try to fit inside the box. So I feel like community is a huge piece. Do you have any tips for local community or any of those pieces for us?
Yeah, I do think community is so important. I would say that sometimes community can even be like one really good anchor friend who respects and loves you and your child and your family. I think having that person is really important. I encourage people to create community. At one point before COVID, people were creating Tilt Together, like in-person groups, which was really cool to see. And even like a group of 2 or 3 people, right, to get together once every couple of weeks in person I'm a big fan of, if it doesn't exist, create it. So if you have a couple of people, like start a book club or do something super informal just to create that safe space. Yeah, of course, I'm in a lot of online communities too. And I would also just say some of my community, the people that really fill me up, they're not even parents. Like they're not, but they support me and champion me in my parenting journey. So community doesn't have to be also people who are in the exact same situation as you are. When we're looking to flesh out our community, or I call it our High Jedi Council, like creating our team, our support team of people that can just hold space for us, or that we know we can call if we've had just the worst day and we need a safe person to go for a walk with, or just call and cry to, and know that we're not going to be judged. That doesn't even have to be a parent in the same situation. So we can identify who are those people who just really love us, and most importantly, love our family and care about our family and our kids.
Yep. Yeah. That's so wonderful. I love the Jedi team phrase. That's great. Yes. For me, it's definitely been, it's not even in the neurodiverse area, but I go to a weekly Qigong, which is like a Tai Chi energy movement class, just to help me reset before the weekend, to help me re-energize myself. And what are your thoughts on self-care? I feel like that's the big buzzword right now.
I mean, I call it conscious maintenance just because I feel like the idea of self-care gets a bad rap. I am a huge proponent of it, and I actually think it is one of the most important things we have to do as parents. It is not optional. Parents of neurodivergent kids, it's just, there's no way that we can, that we will have the capacity to show up for our kids who, again, demand so much from us if we are not filling up our own resources. It's just, we're not going to be able to do it. It's going to hurt us. It's going to hurt our relationship with our kids. We're also not going to model what it takes to be a human and to take care of ourselves. Huge fan. And I will say last year was one of the roughest years that I have had, even worse than like the first year of the pandemic, and for a number of reasons. And I'm really good at white knuckle parenting, and I'm a runner, and I do all the things, right? I read the books, I listen to the podcasts, I have the support team, and I still was not doing well. And I was working with a therapist, and she's, Debbie, you need to actually do something different. You need to create more space for yourself. And I started doing acupuncture, which I forgot. I'm like, oh yeah, this is amazing. But she said to me, Debbie, you need to go to yoga. And I was like, yeah, I'll do yoga with Adrienne on YouTube. I forgot about her. You need to go to an in-person class. That is your homework. Find a yoga studio. She said, make sure it doesn't smell bad. Find a yoga studio where you feel comfortable and try out a few classes. And I found a class. The first one I tried, it was a restorative and move yoga class with this woman, Shanaz, who spent the first 10 minutes helping us tap into our polyvagal nervous system. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, this is just what I needed. And I was like, I found the class, and I did not miss that class for 6 months. And I healed because of that class. So I think it's really, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm really passionate about this stuff. And it's so important because it's not just getting through the day. It takes such a toll on our long-term health for us to be in this hypervigilance, like fight or flight mode. And as I'm getting older, I'm like, oh, actually, this could shorten my life significantly if I don't address this. Yeah, I can get through the day and I can do the things. But if my nervous system is like in this chronic stress mode all the time, that's not good. It's not good for anybody.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love your tangent. I think your tangent is spot on. I was going to a counselor. We had a natural disaster near our house, a wildfire that took out like 60 homes within our area. And the counselor had told me, you need to think about the state that you're living in. You're living in that fight, flight, or freeze state and raising your kids. Sometimes I use the term neurodiverse. I also use the term gifted, spirited, and highly sensitive in our house to identify with this. And really just finding those moments of calming the brain and resetting. And it's so important for our parents raising these kids. Yeah. So important, because if my bucket is not full, how can I give to them? How can I be in that calm state to make them laugh, help them calm down over a sensory experience? You're so right on. So you might have to check out Qigong for yourself. It's kind of a tricky spelling, but it's been an awesome place for me to connect and build community as well, and finding also parents going through similar situations. Switching gears, as we're talking actually a little bit about mindfulness, I wanted to check if you had any mindful tools that you found work in your family, or you've heard in the sphere, the social media sphere, that you have found that you connect with.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've definitely explored some of the apps like Headspace and the Calm app. I've done at various times. In terms of meditation, I've tried that on and off, and my ADHD brain is, oh, you're gonna sit down quietly, let's turn on and start thinking about all the things. I've realized that meditation isn't great for me. For me, mindfulness has been really all about nature and proactively creating experiences in nature where I actually am like, oh, I'm going to do my 5K in this gorgeous like forest that near my house without my AirPods today, because I just want to be in this moment. And I do this thing called Park Run every Saturday in the park, and it's a 5K with a group of a couple hundred people. And I'm very competitive, but So I'm always wanting to beat people in my age group, but I will stop because I stopped and took 9 pictures on Saturday because I just look around the whole time and I just I don't want to miss it. So that's how I do mindfulness, is when I'm in nature, and I try to just really soak it all in. It's just, especially because I moved back to the Netherlands after being in New York City for 5 years, and I am just loving the access to nature so much, and it is really healing in so many ways.
That's so powerful that you're understanding what your system is needing, following those needs. And I don't know if you've heard of movement meditation. It's connecting with ourselves during movement. And that's, I would call possibly, and I might be overstepping or not, you can accept it or not, but those feelings that you have while you're running and connecting with nature and yourself and accepting nature around you and finding the beauty in that, that's a form of movement meditation. So I love that idea for people who can't, turn down the brain. You're finding a way to turn down the brain through movement.
Yeah.
Skiing is like my movement meditation. I don't wear ear pods because I love the sound of the swoosh, swoosh and the wind in the trees and feeling the movement in my body and connecting in that way. So that's a really powerful version of
so
meditation.
I do meditate. Awesome.
You're doing your own version, which is so part of neurodiversity, right? Is finding our own path and finding that for ourselves. Yeah. So I had one more question I wanted to ask you. What would you say to the parent who may hold fear in their heart for the future? What would you tell that parent?
I just want to.
Sure. And it can be the future. It's a very general question. I just felt guided to this question. And any parents that may be nervous or fearful about the future, you can look at the perspective of maybe for their kids, maybe the perspective of themselves.
Yeah. So I'm going to do it through the perspective of our kids, because I think that is one of the biggest pain points, is our fear about what is this going to look like, especially because if it's hard right now, it's so hard to imagine a time when it's not going to be hard. It's so hard to imagine a future where kids are going to be autonomous, independent, self-determined, whatever words you want to use. I would say that our kids are always changing and evolving, as are we. Like, nothing is stagnant. Our kids, especially neurodivergent kids, their developmental trajectory is super jagged and uneven, and they're going to have a huge leap forward and then take 20 steps back, and it's going to be perplexing and all of those things. But I would say our kids are here on their own journey. It is their life. They are their own creative, resourceful, and whole human being. Our job is to support them. It is to guide them. It is to, again, be there for them so that they have that groundedness and that sense of someone's got my back so I can create the life that I want. And yeah, I think it's our job as parents to just be open and curious about how this is going to unfold, to not put our own agendas or hopes or wishes on our child, to really respect that they're on their own journey. And how can I support them in creating the life that they want? It's not about us.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for being brave and starting Tilt Parenting, putting yourself out there in the public light to share these pieces with so many families going through this.
Thank you so much, Carrie. I really appreciated this.
Well, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in, Changemakers. This is Carrie. And if you haven't done a review for us, 5 stars and a little few words about what you've enjoyed in our podcast episodes, we would really appreciate it. If you guys would like to ever message me, I would love any questions you have or any feedback at info@hearttoheartlife.com. We also have a brand new website, which we're super excited to share. It's hearttoheartlife.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, and happy life, happy times, Changemaker families. Please remember that the information shared on this podcast is educational in nature and does not constitute licensed mental health advice. If you need such advice, you should speak with a licensed professional about your unique situation. Thanks so much, happy listeners.